One of the things I've always wanted to ask you is about where it started from you.
I was very lucky. I went to a school that had a wonderful art room, and you were just sort of let rip in there. You could do whatever you wanted, and they had an old camera. I made a truly terrible film with some dolls, which I still have some pieces of, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. But I don't know, it just turned, it was literally like a light bulb. It literally was. I remember seeing the piece of film when it was developed, thinking, I love that moving picture thing.
You know, you're someone with even then I'm sure, with an inquiring mind. You saw it was something, a world you could go into. Where did you start then, though? You went into the world of documentary.
I got my first job and I was paid 80 quid a week as a researcher at Granada, and I had a 6-month contract. One of the problems we have in our industry is that young people in our industry are being exploited. There are companies in London, sadly, that are making very good livings on work experience, which really means people being expected to work for nothing. And if we in the industry who've had good livings think that we are creating a sustainable industry by rape and pillaging young people, then we're very, very sadly mistaken. And if I were to point to a single issue in our industry that is not being dealt with and which offers the most profound threat to the regeneration of our industry, it is the way that we exploit young people.
The question, and one of the questions I really always want to ask you, I mean, Paul and I have known each other for a long time, it's that you worked in documentaries for a long time. So what you do is you've got your story, you're researching your story, you've got your film crew, you're going out there, you've got your post-production, which is the same. But when you move into drama, there seems to be one element that is the thing that you're encountering, which is the actor.
I felt very confident about how to use a camera. I felt very confident about how to tell a story. But I had no insight into performance other than my instincts. The film that you and I made together actually was the one where I realised the inadequacies of my experience. I remember, you probably don't, well, you might remember it, but you probably don't remember the same way as I do. I remember being in the middle of the night. We were on a night shoot in South Africa. And it was a film about an SAS patrol in the first Gulf War. And the scene was 8 people walking in a line through a like a rainstorm in the desert. I'd written this thing, but I couldn't explain to you and the other actors. I didn't understand the language of it. I wasn't confident enough. I didn't have the words to convey what it was I wanted, that I needed it to be. And I remember being on that night shoot. We broke, I suppose, about 4 o'clock in the morning. And I remember, it's absolutely true, banging my head against the vehicle. But it was at that moment, for me, in my distress and my feelings of inadequacy, and they were deep, really, they really were. It was a profound kind of epiphanous moment for me of, this isn't right, I'm in the wrong place. And out of that, when I look back now, was born the idea that to direct is a product of physically where you locate yourself, that you have to be defining the space between that side of the camera and that side of the camera.
I mean, you know, you've won the Alan Clark Award, and Alan Clark did some great dramas for television and had some great actors. And I remember Gary Oldman saying the one thing that Alan Clark used to always do is just create a space I feel fine in, and I feel secure in, and I can create it. And actually, it's funny you're saying about our experience, because I didn't notice that when I was there. I always felt that that's what you did. And actually going on and seeing your work, things like Bloody Sunday, and seeing an actor like Jimmy Nesbitt in this, you know, war zone practically, you know, this riot, and actually what he's got is this ability to give this great performance right in the middle of it. It seems now you have great collaboration with actors.
but I've learnt it. I've learnt the hard way. And the funny thing, of course, if you direct, is you never see other directors work.
Yes, that's
Actors see other actors work because they're on set.
That's right.
You know, you never see. But of course, every director is eternally fascinated. And I remember asking an actor, I can't remember who it was, somebody who worked with Frears, who is a director's director. You know, he's just. And I remember saying, well, what does Frears do? And whoever it was said, oh, he just says, what would you do? Yeah. That's what he does. He just says, what would you do, Dave, in this scene?
He also does
that is the essence.
Instead of pulling you around, what Stephen does, he says, how would you like to play this scene? You think, well, I thought I would stand over here. He said, well, you can stand over there. He said, I'm only lighting over here, though. But you can stand up there. So you as the actor naturally gravitate over here.
Exactly. There you go.
And so that's a different way of pulling you around, I guess.
There you go.
But also, just one last thing. You work, you've won BAFTAs for your work on television with Bloody Sunday and with, although that was a film elsewhere, here it was on TV, and Stephen Lawrence. And then you went to America. Was that a big difference in your working process then?
I remember the first day shooting on the Bourne Supremacy, and we were in Moscow, and it was the first day out, and stepping on, thinking, well, this is just the same as.
And that continued throughout the process?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's inevitably a difference of scale, and there's always that feeling that you're in a 747, that there's resources and power that if you get yourself into trouble, you can whack it on and climb away out of trouble. But equally, conversely, you're aware that you've got a big load, and if it comes down, you're in trouble. So, but
The future, 3D, things like that. Do they interest you?
Yeah, I know. I've flirted with a few 3D things.
Right. Okay.
I actually don't think it's a marketing gimmick. I think it is. Me personally, I think it is part of an inevitable progression, which I think will be here sooner than we think, towards the place where you sit in a cinema seat and it's like the Disney ride where it rocks and rolls and you are truly immersive. The human thirst to create alternative worlds, whether it's, the Iliad all the way through to
Avatar.
Yeah. Is undiminished, and all that's happening is we are creating technology that allows it to occur more readily and more immersively. It's a journey inwards to understand what consciousness is that has always driven human beings and will continue to do so, I think.
I hope you join me in thanking Paul Greengrass. Thanks very much.